Hello and thank you so much for clicking on our video here at the Magic Beans. Today we've got a bit of a prediction video, not a prediction about what cards or mechanics we're going to see, but some storyline predictions for the upcoming year of Magic the Gathering. Before we get into that, my name is Chewy and the Magic Beans are proudly brought to you by the fine folk at Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. Head over to jpmtgbazaar.com.au and when you do win some sweet auctions, please tell them that the Beans sent you. Getting right into it. In a recent video on the Wizards official YouTube channel, there was a roundtable discussion with some of the creatives involved in the upcoming Kamigawa Neon Dynasty set, and they alluded to on a number of occasions some multi-set storylines that would link the upcoming sets throughout 2022 and perhaps beyond into a single storyline, similar to what we saw culminating in Nicol Bolas's plot in War of the Spark. So if we look at the sets scheduled for release in 2022, we've got Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, New Capenna, Dominaria United, and The Brothers War. So it's safe to assume that there'll be a story arc that links these into a single narrative, telling a wider, more detailed story. And we saw a lot of success with this with the Gatewatch, culminating in the War of the Spark, which means this is kind of expected from Wizards, and it allows for deeper character development and just shows how powerful an ability Planeswalking is. The idea of powerful wizards traveling the multiverse, influencing different worlds and planes, albeit to help the inhabitants on a well-meaning mission or with darker, more sinister motives. I'm putting two things together that are pretty obvious. Wizards want to build storylines to promote their sets, and the upcoming sets will be an example of that where that takes place. So, looking back, where do we start? Looking back at the origins of Kamigawa, I think if we go right back to the beginning, all the way back 18 years ago. So this Japanese-inspired plane was largely peaceful and compared to other planes in the multiverse, quite unremarkable, until the events that occurred in the Homeland set, where the Apocalypse Chime was used by the Tolgath. They are a group of planeswalkers who were locked in a war known later on as the Great War with the Ancients of Ulgrotha. During this war, the planeswalker Ravi used the chime to end the Great War, but it had an unexpected and certainly unintended consequence of the chime breaking down the barrier between the mortal and spiritual worlds on the plane of Kamigawa. So this was the setting of the original Kamigawa block, with the Oni, or the spirits, flooding the mortal world and attacking the inhabitants. My predictions are centered around this and the history of the Apocalypse Chime. So let's get into this a little. So thinking about each of these new sets that are coming out this year, Kamigawa, New Capenna, Dominaria, and the Brothers War, we can look at those as individual chapters in the storyline. Chapter 1, the story setup, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It's a plane where spirits and mortals live together. 1200 years of progress by using the power of the Kami, culminating in a cyberpunk-esque technology and progressive society. My prediction for this is there is some disharmony. A faction, or perhaps a planeswalker, for reasons yet to be revealed, are seeking to return things to the way they once were. This character or planeswalker or faction wishes to remove the Kami from the physical plane. So we'll see that. Kamigawa, there will be a lot of nostalgia, but there will also be the setup of this broader storyline that will bring in some things that have happened recently. So, Chapter 2, the story progression. New Capenna. This Art Deco inspired set will fit quite well with the advanced technology found in Kamigawa, hopefully making the introduction of a largely sci-fi setting into a predominantly fantasy setting slightly less jarring. Art Deco is filled with all things ornate and opulent, with various factions in this city plane vying for political power and wealth. While we don't know a lot about this set to date, my prediction is there will be an heirloom theme, like unique collectors that show off their wealth and status by collecting artifacts from all over the multiverse. Some of them will have significant historical meaning and nostalgia, others will be completely new to us, perhaps continuing this storyline or setting up some more in the future. But I believe one such artifact found on New Capenna will be a broken and non-functional Apocalypse Chime, or the remains thereof. The antagonist from Kamigawa will appear on New Capenna and procure this Apocalypse Chime, either by stealing it, perhaps they're a ninja, or through providing some service to the current owner. Quick tangent here. The Wanderer, who we first saw during the War of the Spark. Drawn to Ravnica by the interplanar beacon, I believe they were working to stop the Apocalypse Chime from finding its way into the wrong hands, but the scheme of Nicobolus was an unforeseen and unfortunate delay, allowing the chime to fall into the wrong hands. We've seen in some of the previews and some of the art the Wanderer appearing. Dominaria United, Chapter 3. If you had an artifact that you wanted repaired, I can only think of two places I would take it. The first being Mirrodin, but returning there after the Phyrexians have repurposed it for themselves seems rather foolhardy. The next most obvious place is Dominaria, home to the two most powerful artificers in all of Magic's history, the very famous brothers Urza and Mishra. My prediction in the third installment of this storyline will involve the antagonist, pursued by the Wanderer, arriving in Dominaria to enlist the services of Mishra to repair the Apocalypse Chime in order to use it to banish the Kami from the plane of Kamigawa. However, when arriving in Dominaria, we find the plane has been beset once again by the Phyrexians, who were banished all the way back in the Antiquities block, but have returned to the plane once again, seeking revenge for their earlier defeat. Mishra, believing the Apocalypse Chime will banish the Phyrexians once and for all, goes to work on repairing this powerful artifact. His brother Urza, alerted to this by the Wanderer, attempts to stop this from happening. Chapter 4, the crescendo, the climax of our story, the Brothers' War. This is set around the event that is the conflict between Mishra and Urza, as Mishra attempts to purge his home of the Phyrexians, not knowing the impact of the Apocalypse Chime would have on the other planes within the multiverse. Urza intervenes and the two brothers battle for not only their own home, but for untold billions of souls across the multiverse. Will Urza defeat his brother and stop the chime from being used? Will that mean the Phyrexians get their ultimate revenge on Dominaria? Will saving Dominaria doom Kamigawa and countless other planes? Will the Apocalypse Chime even work to the goals of those who are using it? How close will my predictions be? Am I completely off the mark, or do I have some or all of these things correct? Who knows, but I am certainly keen to find out. Stay tuned for our upcoming videos and reactions to all things new sets throughout 2022. Thank you for watching. We will talk to you soon on the Magic Beams.